You got the raise. They got access. The moment your income moved, someone in your life started doing math. Not about their own money, about yours. They didn't ask for permission, they didn't announce it, they just quietly decided that your raise covered a gap they no longer had to fill themselves. Money doesn't just change what you have, it changes what the people closest to you decide they're allowed to expect. The raise became a signal, not of your progress, of their relief. And the part no one warned you about? The access doesn't arrive as demand, it arrives as closeness, as trust, as love. And by the time you recognize it, saying no doesn't feel like a boundary, it feels like betrayal. You got the raise, the number changed, and for a moment it felt like progress. But money doesn't land quietly. It lands in a room full of people who are already watching. And the moment it landed, something shifted. Not in your account, in the air around you. The conversations changed tone before you could name why. The requests came before you finished celebrating. The calls arrived closer together. The favors got heavier. Nobody said anything directly. Nobody had to. Because financial pressure doesn't always come from the outside. Sometimes it comes from the people who already know what you make. A raise doesn't just signal your value to your employer, it signals your availability to everyone else. And availability, once signaled, is almost impossible to take back. People don't recalculate consciously. They don't sit down and decide to need more from you. It happens in the space between what they earn and what you now earn. That gap becomes a kind of gravity, and gravity doesn't ask, it just pulls. The dinner you covered became the dinner you always cover. The loan that was temporary stopped having a return date. The financial advice they asked for once became a standing expectation. None of it was announced. All of it was decided. Your raise didn't belong only to you anymore. It belonged to the room. It belonged to whoever was close enough to feel the shift and smart enough not to mention it directly. This didn't start with the raise. The raise only made it visible. The pattern was built long before your salary was high enough for anyone to notice. It was built in the house you grew up in the way money was talked about or never talked about at all. In the way you watched the adults around you handle financial pressure, who absorbed it, who deflected it, who went quiet when the bills arrived. You learned early what money meant in that house, not as a number, as a role. Some children learn that money means safety. Others learn that money means responsibility for everyone else's safety. And if you learned the second version, the raise didn't create a new dynamic, it activated an old one. Because somewhere in your conditioning, being the one who earns more means being the one who carries more. That belief doesn't live in your thoughts, it lives in your body, in the way your stomach tightens when someone mentions they're struggling, in the way you reach before you're asked, in the way saying no produces a guilt that feels disproportionate to the situation. That guilt is not a character flaw, it is a learned response. You were taught, directly or indirectly, that your financial comfort in a room full of people who are struggling makes you responsible for the gap. Not by law, not by logic, by loyalty. And loyalty learned in childhood does not update when your paycheck does. The raise changed your number. It did not change the instruction. The instruction was written too early in a language too deep for a salary increase to reach. Your nervous system does not know what year it is. It does not know your salary. It only knows one thing: what kept you safe before. And if what kept you safe before was making yourself useful, staying generous, absorbing financial pressure without complaint, then that is exactly what it will drive you to do now. Not because you chose it, because your body chose it first. Before the thought forms, the response is already moving. Someone mentions they're short, your chest tightens, your mind starts calculating what you can give before they finish the sentence. That is not generosity. That is a survival pattern wearing the mask of generosity. The nervous system reads financial tension in the room as a threat, not to your money, to your belonging, to your position in the group. Because for many people, the original threat was never poverty itself. It was the social consequence of poverty. The exclusion, the shame, the shift in how people looked at the family when the money ran out. Your body remembers that shift, and it will spend every resource available to prevent it from happening again, even if the people doing the asking are adults who are fully capable of carrying their own weight. Your nervous system does not audit the situation. It responds to the feeling. And the feeling of someone needing something from you, combined with your ability to provide it, triggers one of the oldest survival calculations a person can make: give or lose your place. Here is where it gets harder to see, because the pattern is not just about fear, it is about who you believe you are when you have more than the people around you. Identity doesn't update automatically with income. You can earn significantly more than your family, more than your closest friends, and still carry the internal identity of the person who was equal to them. That identity has a loyalty built into it, a loyalty that says you do not separate yourself. You do not create distance. You do not become someone who says no to people who need something you clearly have. That loyalty feels like love. It presents itself as love, but it is operating as a financial ceiling. Because every time your income rises and your giving rises with it, you have confirmed to yourself and to everyone else that your money and their needs are the same conversation, that your progress is a communal resource, that the raise was never fully yours. Identity loyalty is the mechanism that makes access feel natural. It's why the requests don't feel like intrusions, they feel like connection. It's why giving feels right even when it costs too much. Because somewhere in your self-concept, the version of you that withholds is not someone you recognize. That version feels cold, feels disloyal. And so you give, not because you were asked, because the identity you built in scarcity does not know how to exist comfortably in surplus. Surplus feels unsafe. Surplus feels like separation. And separation, for someone conditioned in close financial quarters, feels indistinguishable from abandonment. This is how access actually moves, not in one large demand, in a sequence of small ones that each appear reasonable in isolation. The first request lands when the raise is still new. It is small enough to say yes to without discomfort. A dinner, a short-term loan, a bill that just needs covering this once. You say yes because you can, because saying no to something small when you clearly have enough feels unnecessary. But that yes does something invisible. It sets a reference point, and reference points, once set, become the new floor. The next request arrives slightly heavier. You say yes again, because the logic holds. Saying no now would require an explanation you don't want to give. And so the pattern compounds, each yes making the next no harder to justify. Each act of covering, absorbing, or bridging quietly reclassifying you in the minds of the people around you. You are no longer just someone they love. You are someone they rely on, and reliance, once established, restructures the relationship without either party acknowledging it. Requests stop feeling like requests. They start feeling like updates, like information being passed to the person responsible for handling it. You are now that person, not because you were appointed, because you said yes enough times that the appointment became assumed. This is where the range closes. Saying no at this stage doesn't just decline a request, it rewrites the history of every yes that came before it. It reframes your past generosity as conditional. So you don't say no, you say yes again. But something has changed in the quality of the yes. It is no longer given freely, it is given to avoid the consequence of not giving. And your nervous system knows the difference even when your behavior looks identical from the outside. The weight accumulates invisibly. You start managing conversations before they happen. You adjust your spending, your disclosures, your language, all to manage the expectations of people who have come to see your income as a shared resource. Your financial life is no longer private. It is a negotiation you are always in the middle of with people who don't acknowledge that a negotiation is happening. The raise that was supposed to expand your life has instead narrowed it. You are earning more, and you are free to do less and less with it. The people who have access to your income are not villains. They are people who found a source of stability and quietly organized their lives around it. The mechanism doesn't require bad intentions. It only requires proximity, a salary gap, and enough time. By the time you feel the full weight of it, the dynamic is already structural, built into the rhythm of your relationships, into the timing of calls, into the silence after you take too long to respond. The access was never announced. It was assembled one reasonable request at a time. And now you are living inside something that was built around your income without your consent. The raise changed your number. The people around you changed what that number meant. And what it means now, you haven't finished finding out.